Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're here this Monday morning. Got a great week lined up of good outdoor shows, and today is no exception. A very special guest here in the studio that you're going to really enjoy listening to him and hearing some of his stories. But first, let's do our weather, brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin Road and Highway 77. Run by and check out all the various programs they have right there. Now, today's high is going to be 83. Low tonight 68, but the water temperature over the weekend, folks, has gone up like 3 degrees. When we read it last night, it's 78 degrees, so it has really gotten warm. That's one of those little veins shooting out there, and it's really, that arm of water is really strong around the thermometer there. Now, the moon phase, this is the May full moon we've talked about all year. Is going to be full, looks like on May the 15th, and here we are about 3 days away from full moon, folks. If you can get off work today and go fishing, today is a great day. I always talk about this. I don't know if y'all ever get tired of me talking about what my dad taught me, but he taught me so much and all that. But one of the things that the May full moon was the one thing that he really believed in. He always went 3 days before and 3 days after. I don't care what he was doing. He would go fishing 3 days before the May full moon. So that would be today. So if you get a chance, tell your boss that Mr. Willis Chester said that's a good time to go. See if you can get off work today. All right. Now, let's look at our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. Right there on the screen, looking at, again, the May 12th right there. We're getting back into some tide. We had neap tides all weekend. Getting back into some good tides. We have a high tide at 8:58 this morning and a low tide at 6:30. So we've got a good falling out tide. All week long is going to be a good tide, afternoon tide where it's falling. So there's going to be some good fish caught this week. All right? That's going to take care of our marine weather. Let's go ahead and take our break, and we'll come back with our special guest. Welcome back to Panhandle Outdoors, and welcome to our special guest, Jim Wilson.
Hey, you never thought we'd be getting together here, did you?
No, boy, it is an honor to have you come on the show this morning, Jim.
I didn't know you like to have all these old guys.
Oh, man, we got a bunch of old people on this show. I even had Scott Lindsay on it one time.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of Scott Lindsay, I was just listening to you talking about fishing. According to him, there's big kings in now, and this weather has and warmer tides and stuff and warmer water out there has really brought the cigar minnows and bait fish in, and he says big kings are eating it up.
Yeah, we'll get some good reports now. Sure are. And good weekend.
I just told you I just got a new Boston whaler, so I can't wait to get out there and see if I still know how to catch one.
Well, we're going to talk about that boat a little bit later on, but let's go and start at the very beginning, Jim. Why don't you? We're going to tell folks how. I asked Jim to bring some pictures about when he first got started in outdoors, and we have a few great pictures here. So let's start talking about you. Where did you grow up?
Well, I started out in a little town called Columbia, Mississippi, and in '46, my mother and I moved to Gulfport, Mississippi, and we lived right on the beach, and that was the most glorious thing that ever happened to me. That introduced me to fishing and crabbing and floundering and all the other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we never owned a car, never took a vacation. I just rode the bus.
Yeah.
One quick story on the bus. I worked on a party boat during the summer, and just about every trip I could catch a cobia. And most of the time I'd sell it to somebody on the boat for $2 or $3. Well, if I didn't, I'd get a croaker sack. You know what that is?
Oh, I know croaker sack.
And I'd get on the bus. I'd gut the fish and everything, and I'd have in the croaker. I'd sit there in the bus drive. Oh my God! Here comes that Jimmy Wilson. It would leak through there.
Oh, man.
And the windows were open.
Yeah.
And before he got anywhere, the flies would already be there. And when I'd get home to my stop, I'd get off the bus.
Wow.
Fish.
Well, let's look at this picture here. This is when you're a young man here. This is a great picture.
That is me with my dearest late friend. He passed away a few years ago, Harry Davis. And I was 16, Harry was 17.
Yeah, you're on the back of the boat.
Huh?
You're on the back. Right?
I'm in the back of the boat. That's me with the pistol.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got a pistol on me. I bought that pistol on the layaway program.
NRA would like this picture.
22 caliber H&R. And we're on a 1 week trip. It's my first time I ever took pictures and wrote a story about a trip. And we went on a 1 week trip on the Leaf River from Hattiesburg, Mississippi down to Pascagoula, to the Pascagoula River, and lived off the land.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing.
That's like adventures all young people take, like Huckleberry Finn, and we've all done stuff like that. And I understand what you're saying.
But in those days, we could catch fish to eat, and late in the afternoon, we'd always have a big catfish. We'd look for a house, smoke, and go up. Most of the time, it'd be a black family. And the mother would come out and, Lord's sake, where you boys come from? Well, we came down
They're going to take care of you.
She said, well, you got to be at Hattiesburg. Yeah, just a minute, that's where we got. Say, would you like a catfish? Well, you got a catfish? Yes, ma'am, we'll clean it for you. Well, you know, I got sweet potatoes cooking and greens on, and I'm going to cook that catfish. If you boys want to come eat supper, you're welcome.
That's great.
And that's where we'd get our supper, and the next morning we'd have breakfast there and get some eggs, and literally that's what we did every night.
Yeah. Now, your friend, let's show a picture of your friend. He ended up being an astronaut, you said?
Yeah, I was going to show you, this one here. This is the...
Okay.
When I graduated from high school in 1950, I went to 30 miles north to a little college called Perkinston Junior College in Mississippi. And my roommate was Fred Hayes.
This is you right here.
That's me look at the pipe.
You're smoking a pipe in the library?
In the library.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's me at the typewriter. And then over there, that's Fred Hayes right there. He was from Biloxi, and he was my roommate. He was editor of the paper, and I made myself the outdoor editor, and that's when I first started getting regularly published with pictures and stories.
Is that right?
Yeah, in 1950.
Yeah.
And then this is Fred Hayes today.
Wow. He became an astronaut.
That's Fred Hayes. Wow. Houston, we have a problem, and that's him. And we're still great friends. I had my 80th birthday 3 years ago now, and Fred couldn't come. He was planning, but he sent me a beautiful DVD and recalling all our old days, and we were bad boys.
That's cool. All right, we're going to take our second break, and we'll be right back with Jim Wilson. All right, welcome back. Sitting with Jim Wilson. Jim's been in outdoors a long time. You see some of the early pictures. So from this instant on, he went on, then he joined the Army and ended up...
Yeah, when I joined the Army, when I was in college and high school, I'd been in the Naval Reserve, and I got a discharge after 4 years. I taught for a year, taught the 4th grade, and then I went in the Army to the Army Language School in Monterey, California. I was a Russian interpreter.
Okay.
And ended up at Fort Devens, Massachusetts as a radio Russian intercept operator. And that's where I met my first wife. And we were married, and I lived there many, many years, and 30 years. Okay. Had 4 children.
Okay.
And that's where I finally I owned a camera store.
So this is when you had your first television experience. Look at this camera, folks.
Yeah.
So this was in 1960-something?
1967.
Okay.
And I had started doing television. In those days,
there's Jim right there.
Yeah, it was all film and all black and white 16 millimeter, and very expensive to do.
You couldn't envision something like this back then, could you? That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, not at all. They didn't even have credit cards yet.
So how did you end up in Panama City?
Well, it's a funny thing. My mother and I lived in Gulfport, and then in the 60s, she got a job with the Corps of Engineers here working for Alton Colvin. She was his secretary, and she moved to Panama City. Well, the first time I came and visited her, I fell in love with this place. And so when I decided in '83 to leave New England and come back here, I didn't go. When I left Mississippi, I never looked in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And I just love Penn and always have. And she was the organist at St. Dominic's Church here when it was on Harrison Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
Until she passed away in '76. And she was the only person. I never had any brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, or cousins.
Is that right?
I got one cousin, and she's 92 in Columbus, Mississippi.
Yeah. So you had, while you were up in New Hampshire, though, you had some good outdoor experiences in New Hampshire.
Oh, my gosh, that's all we did.
Yeah.
Was hunting, fishing, camping, boating, canoeing, hiking, and my children. My oldest daughter, by the way, is 57 now, and she is a 25-year career veteran with California Fish and Game. She has a master's in marine biology,
Right.
and she is in charge of reef fish for the California coast.
Oh my goodness! Do they have a lot of problems out there with regular?
More than we have.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And she fights nymphs just tooth and nail.
Yeah.
If they tell her something and she knows that like here, if they tell them something, we know that their data is totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she fights them, and
Yeah.
she says, "No, we're not doing it."
Well, good for her.
And I mean, she runs it with an iron fist. And she has 2 wonderful children, and
Yeah.
my grandson by her is graduating from high school this year. And
Very good. That's great. Well,
And-
listen, now once you're doing outdoor stuff in New Hampshire, then so you're back and forth here, and so you enjoy doing stuff here.
yeah.
So I know that now. So tell us about, we all know your show. Tell us about your show, how you got started here in television.
Well, there was a guy from Dothan, New Hampshire that had a morning show
Okay.
every morning. You may have remembered him. His name was Red Holland.
Oh, yeah, Dothan, Alabama, right, yeah.
And I saw that show and I said, man, if he could do that, I could do that. At the time, by the way, I'd already gotten a job writing for the News Herald, the Happy Hooker, every week. I
Yeah.
wrote the outdoor column.
I remember that.
And so I bought a camera and everything. I knew how to do all this stuff. And I was on every morning, 6 o'clock on Channel 13 live. And I stayed
So
on.
that's how it started from there, and
Yeah.
then you evolved into a weekend show.
Well, that's because it
Yeah.
just got too expensive,
Right.
and the station. Well, what happened actually is the station went to news from 5 to
Yeah.
7 in the morning, so that booted me out.
Yeah.
But I still hung on with my sponsors and things. And in the last year, I've actually had a bunch of medical problems, and I've retired twice. But I tell you what, I was at my heart doctor this past week, and he gave me a good clean bill of health. And he said, "You got to remember, you're not any spring chicken anymore." And I said, "No, but I'm a tough old bird."
That's right. That's exactly.
And so, because I just love doing it, I love the people.
Yeah. Well,
And-
you've been doing a long time, and a lot of people enjoy watching and all.
And the same with you, Winston. You
Yeah.
know that. You know how people love to meet you and see you and say, "Oh, I watch your show." And of course, I have my 2 little dogs. I didn't know whether the dogs would be welcome this morning or not, so I didn't bring them.
Well, listen. You next time you're on, you can bring those dogs. I know you really love your dogs and all.
But the dogs are part of the show, and it's a crazy thing. I'll go to an event like where we had that kids fishing thing a week ago,
Yeah.
and the people that are there, they see the little dog. Oh my gosh, it's the TV dogs!
TV
oh,
dogs.
you're so. Oh, you're the guy on there with them.
Yeah, they recognize the dogs first.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know, we have a lot in common. And one of the biggest problem I have on doing a show, and I know you can't be everywhere every Saturday. There's so much going
Exactly.
on, and you just can't cover everything. And wish we had a big production staff that could cover here and there and all. But
Yeah.
you're like me, it's a one-man show.
Yep, it is.
And so
And did you get to go to the launching of Grover's boat?
I did not. I was tied up then too.
Well, I had a medical event that
Yeah.
day, and I couldn't go either.
Yeah. But
Because
heard it
I
good.
was there when you were there,
Yeah.
at the
We had old
event.
timers there.
And then the next day I went back and did a TV show
Yeah.
on the boat.
Yeah.
But and I missed the launch because I'd love to have seen a 130-foot boat,
Yeah.
and we missed another good fish fry.
I know it. I hate missing those. Well, listen, we're going to talk a minute about present day. Well, let's look at the past. All the things you've done in outdoors. What are a couple of your favorite things you've done in outdoors?
Going to Alaska.
Okay.
My wife and I in 2000 had a 10-day, all expense paid, including airfare, to Alaska that included 5 fishing trips,
Oh my goodness.
an air flight that took us up on a plane that took off on wheels, a little single-engine plane.
Like a bush pilot.
Yeah, took off on wheels and went up 8,000 feet and landed on a glacier.
Oh my goodness.
And we got out, and it was unbelievable because it was a spiritual event.
Yeah.
You get out, and everything is so deadly quiet until you listen, and then you hear the glacier groaning. It never stops moving, and you can hear this groan going on underneath your feet. And that was one of the things. And then, of course, they say we had 5 fishing trips that included catching 40-pound king salmon in one of the creeks that we wade fishing in. They were stacked like cordwood.
Oh my goodness!
And then Mount McKinley is lit up in the background, and then we've had 2 trips to Costa Rica. I have a friend that owns an incredible place down there called Crocodile Bay, and she's caught 7-foot sailfish. And I used a 2-camera technique, so I'd have one camera shooting the cockpit with the fighting the fish, and the other camera zoomed in on the fish jumping out there, so then I could put it together, and you'd see the combination. And
that's 2 good trips. That's on my bucket list. Both of those places are on my bucket list too.
Yeah,
but I know everyone's ever going to last.
You know, my bucket, I don't have any room for anything else. I have literally made my entire lifetime career out of the outdoors,
Yes.
one way or the other.
Yes.
Because when I lived in New England, I also became the factory representative for the Garcia Fishing Tackle Company for many, many years. I had all 6 New England states, upper New York State. And it's funny, I was visiting my mother here one time, and she said, "Jimmy," very strong Southern lady, "are you ever go get a real job?" Well, I was on my way to California to the sales meeting, and I said, "Well, Mother, I have let me show you this." And of course, it was not like today in computer stuff. But I said, "Take a look at this." And she said, "My Lord, $1,175,000." And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, that's a big company." I said, "No, Mother, that's my sales for the year." "You mean you can sell a bunch of damn Yankees $1 million worth of fishing tackle and guns?" I said, "Mama, that's a real job." And so I had that until they went bankrupt.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went to work for Shakespeare and did the same thing.
Okay.
And so I've had my share of real jobs.
All right, let's take a final break. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. So here with Jim Wilson of the television fame. But first, let's get to our fishing game forecast today. We're brought to us by Mark Coward at Edgewater Beach Realty. His number is 832-6000. Looking at our time today, this morning, right at 10:53 to 12:53. That's an excellent time to go. Tonight, if you want to go floundering, go between 11:18 and 1:18 tonight. All right. Thank you, Mark Coward, for taking care of that. Jim, we were talking. You called me the other day, and you were talking about Whitney on
your
new
granddaughter
show.
Whitney, and called to compliment her to you on her new show, Cast and Call. The young girl is brilliant. She's beautiful. And she's going to have a future ahead of her.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, as all grandparents, we always want to see our grandkids.
Oh, yeah.
But I appreciate you calling and talking about that. I appreciate you watching the show. I think it is a really good show. I think.
Oh, it's an excellent show.
It really is. Their technology, they're so good at that kind of stuff compared to what I can do here with my stuff.
I have to confess, my wife doesn't really like watching most of these outdoor shows because she says they all look alike. Well, when she saw Cast and Call, she said, "I can't believe that young girl is doing." She said, "I'm finally hooked on a show."
Well, that's the best compliment of all, right there. You tell Pat.
And I mean that sincerely.
I appreciate
that.
And
I got to compliment my dear wife, Pat, because people know her, and that poor woman, now after retiring from Bay High, she has her own business teaching blind children in 5 different counties that don't have enough visually impaired for a full-time teacher. She's on the road 200 miles a day.
Wow.
With all of her travels.
Wow.
And she gets up at 6:45 every morning and is out the door and spends the day. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
For example, Holmes County, she has 4 different schools to go to teach 9 different children. In Calhoun County, she has 5 schools to teach 10 children. And then she has to go and teach a 3-year-old boy that's totally blind and can't walk and is immobile.
Well, great. That's
and
great.
she just works herself to death.
I know she does. I know her. I know she's a very caring person.
Oh, she absolutely is.
Always has been.
And there's no one else like her. She's just absolutely brilliant in what she does.
Very good. Well, now listen. Now, does she enjoy fishing with you?
Oh, I told you she caught 7-foot sailfish.
Yeah.
And another fish they have down there is a rooster fish, which is like an amberjack on
Yeah.
steroids. And
That's strong then.
Oh man, and they're big.
Yeah. Well, listen, you told me you sold your Boston whaler, 17-foot whaler, a couple months ago. You couldn't stand it, so you found it.
4 months ago,
4
I
months
sold it to go, and this past week, I took delivery from Paul Flay, who is the best if anybody needs fiberglass work.
Yes, he is.
And I had to have some just cosmetic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's sitting in my driveway right now, and it quivers every day.
It's ready to go.
It wants to go. It's like a horse, you know.
Well,
Ride me.
Well, this summer now, we're in the spring now. What's your goals for the rest of the spring and this summer outdoors? What do you want to try to get done outdoors? What kind of fishing you want to do?
Well, first of all, I want to get out and try to catch some flounder right now.
Okay.
Have you heard any flounder reports?
A few. I have heard a few.
Well, I was checking at Half Hitch Tackle, and they didn't have any good reports
Yep.
coming yet. And I want some flounder. And then look at all these crazy things going on with the snapper. Have you ever seen anything like that?
It's amazing, isn't it?
An 11-day season.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I had Pam Anderson and Representative Sutherland on the other day, and we were talking about all the problems
Mm-hmm.
with the big problem is something called the Magnuson Act,
Yeah.
which requires them to use the best available data, even when they know it's wrong,
Yeah.
and it's just killing us.
Yeah, and they've got to get. That's why they've got to get some better data. That's yeah.
Well, they presumably set up to do that in '07. You know, they're supposed to have a $25 federal fee to fish in the ocean. Well, we're exempt because we have a license. The state is, and it's supposed to be that data that they use from the states that have, or what they collect. Well, that's all gone down the toilet.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on the show, buddy. Now, tell folks when we watch you and what time.
I'm on Sunday mornings,
Okay.
5 a.m., Channel 13, fishingnewsnetwork.com.
All right.
And that's my website, fishingnewsnetwork.com.
So watch Jim first, and then switch over here to Cast and Call. You get two great outdoor shows. right there.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right, folks. As always, we appreciate you watching Panhandle Outdoors. Thank you so much for your loyalty and your viewership. You do something good for somebody today, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.